some dare call it conspiracy.
Welcome to the Some Dare Call It Conspiracy podcast, hosted by Brent Lee and Neil Sanders. After nearly 20 years exploring the world of conspiracy culture, we are taking our guests and listeners on a guided tour of the rabbit hole. Our mission? To discover where the truth lies.
So, we're looking into David Cartland, a former GP who, following the COVID outbreak, started to get suspicions about the vaccines. And also, he was concerned that the government response was overreaching, potentially unnecessary. In response to this, he decided to put out a Substack explaining his position and also published the fact that he'd become surprisingly magnetic. He thought due to the COVID vaccine. Sadly, one of his friends actually died from COVID. And then he decided to basically research this and found himself on a lot of conspiracy channels, Lawrence Fox, Iconic, which is David Icke's show, being interviewed by Gareth Icke, and making his position clear. And a lot of the things that he was concerned about was that the vaccine was actually inducing more harm than it was solving. He was concerned about things like all the animals dying in the trials and parts of the vaccine ending up in bits of the body that people didn't want, basically. And with the sort of benefit of hindsight, we can actually look back and go, although his concerns did come from papers, like real papers, actual people who presented themselves as doctors and such like that, with hindsight, we can see that absolutely everything that he was concerned about was incorrect. But at the time, it wasn't entirely as clear. That's one way of looking at it. Another way of looking at it was to be that he was cherry picking and taking any contrarian nonsense off the internet that he could find and trying to present it with a degree of authority that his position inferred. Anyway, on the 6th of May, 2022, he appears on the brand new Tube, which is a show that's run by, I don't know if she's a current journalist. I think she used to be a journalist. Sonia Poulton. Are you familiar with her, Brent?
Yeah, sure. Wasn't she also part of the People's Voice?
I think she was, yeah, absolutely. So she's a bit of a veteran of the conspiracy world. And he essentially says the same things that he's been saying in his letter to the GMC and on his Substack. And but he also starts focusing on his concerns that the COVID vaccine is simply not suitable for pregnant women. And he quotes a particular paper, COVID-19 mRNA vaccine BNT162B2 concentrate for solution for injection. And in it, it says, reassurance of safe use of the vaccine in pregnant women cannot be provided at the present time. And this is absolutely genuine. And so he's presenting this, which is essentially like a packaging that comes with the vaccines, explaining them. And this comes from a government report that was put out in December 2020. This is his concern that, like, if the document itself says that this is not suitable for pregnant women, why on earth are we giving this to pregnant women? Well, the reason is, and you may have caught it, this is from a document, it's citing a document that was produced in 2020, right at the beginning of the vaccine rollout. This is what would be described as standard cautionary language used when a vaccine is first approved. And the reason for this is because pregnant women were excluded from the initial phase 3 trials. And this is routine practice for any new medicine. So although they had gone through 3 phases of animal trials and 3 phases of human trials, at that particular time, they hadn't tested it on pregnant women. Now, activists or anti-vaxxers often present the 2020 document as a current admission of danger, ignoring the fact that later, both the NHS and the MHRA updated their guidance. And this was in April 2021. So this has already been updated. when he's having this interview. And what they've done is they've relied on real world data to confirm its safety. And it now says the COVID-19 vaccine available in the UK have been shown to be effective and have a good safety profile. These vaccines do not contain live coronavirus and cannot infect a pregnant woman or her unborn baby in the womb. There is no known risk whilst giving inactivated virus or bacterial vaccines or toxoids during pregnancy or while breastfeeding. So that's interesting, isn't it? Because like that was, both of those documents are real. Okay, the one that says that seems to be negative was a real document, but it's been taken out of context. The updated guidance did exist at the time that he's doing this interview. So you need to start thinking, is he not aware of that? Or is he choosing not to talk about that? And who could say? But whichever you believe will probably sort of color your understanding of the changes that he went through as we go forward. He then quotes the United States Security and Exchange Commission, Washington, D.C., 20549, Form 20F. And this is, again, an absolutely genuine document. And he claims that this shows that when studying pregnant mothers, there was a cohort in this study of 270 mothers. And this paper seems to show that 238 of them lost their child. And so this was another concern that was raised by people against the vaccine in the early stages. Other people may have heard of this as the 82% miscarriage rate. And so the claim is that this Pfizer document, and it is a real Pfizer document that was submitted to the FDA, showed an 82 to 97% miscarriage rate, depending on who you speak to. Now, again, real document, but the document in question was a cumulative analysis of spontaneous adverse events reports, which are self-reported by individuals and do not prove the vaccine caused the event. But so is that the argument that basically none of this has been proven? It's not even that. To reach the 82% figure, influencers had to divide a small number of reported miscarriages by only the women who had completed their pregnancy at the specific time. They excluded the thousands of other vaccinated women who were still safely pregnant while artificially inflating the percentage. Do you see? So it was just lying and use of either a gross misunderstanding or a willful misrepresentation of what this paper actually said. And people were representing this as Pfizer claiming that 82 to 97% of women who took the vaccine would suffer a miscarriage. So this is, within this Sonia Poulton, we get two more examples of things that with the benefit of hindsight, we know to be wrong. You could also make the claim that had he read the document in question and had he understood the document in question, he couldn't have come to the same conclusion that other people on the internet had come to. And at this point, it does somewhat raise the question, is he a whistleblower, as he claims to be? Because he seems to be just repeating stuff off the internet and potentially using his position as a GP as an appeal to authority. The only thing he's whistleblown about is the fact that one of the people that he gave the vaccine to, or that was given the vaccine, developed arthritis, and another developed some sort of skin lesions or blisters, if you remember. And that's that may well be true, but all of these other things that he's saying, they haven't come from him. And furthermore, they've all been proven wrong thus far. But Cartland says that, and he repeats this numerous times in the Sonia Poulton, he says that all he has is questions. He's looking at this data and it's giving him cause for concern. But all he has is questions. He's completely open to debate. And he says that actually what he'd really like is for someone to show that he's wrong, because obviously if he's wrong, that means that these vaccines are safe and there's nothing for him to be concerned about. But he is concerned. He's concerned about children, concerned about pregnant mothers, and he's concerned about people that are being tricked into taking this vaccine, which is doing them more harm than good. But to the important point that you need to leave this interview with Sonia Poulton is that he's just asking questions. He's completely open to debate. He's not precious about the subject. As far as he claims, he's literally looking this almost like a sort of like an academic, like an intellectual question. It's like, and he wants to be proven wrong. A gentleman that will be later known in the tribunal as Dr. C takes him up on this challenge and essentially starts rebutting his arguments on Twitter, pointing out many of the things that we've pointed out, that actually there's been further data since then. This has shown this concern to be not something that we should be worried about. As I said, this man will be known as Dr. C. Now, Mr. Cartland said that all he wanted to do was have a debate, and he was completely open to questions. And if he was wrong, he would basically go, "Brilliant, thank you for informing me and updating my lexicon. We shall move forward," which makes it rather strange, the actions that he took around the 24th of July 2022, because what Dr. David Cartland did was to create a fake Twitter account in Dr. C's name and then start posting abusive content from it, which is the equivalent of, you know, when you're in the playground and so if somebody would do something silly, you would do a satirical impression of them and go, "Oh, hello, my name is This is essentially doing that, but with social media. This coming from a doctor, also a grown man, who has decided that he just wants to have debate because he's genuinely concerned. That's unusual behavior. So the tribunal said, Dr. C is a viral immunologist with a PhD in immunology. He posted on Twitter to debunk misinformation during the pandemic. He's one of Dr. Cartland's complainants. He has never met Dr. Cartland in person. Their interactions were online. Dr. Cartland set up a fake Twitter account impersonating him, posted graphic and insulting content, implied he had a childhood head injury or severe autism, and accused him of being part of the 77th Brigade or the Mutton Crew, which is apparently an online group connected to the British Army that is there to combat misinformation and essentially to stifle brave whistleblowers like Mr. Cartland. Cartland also targeted Dr. C's business accounts. So that's not somebody that just wants to debate. Dr. C stated that harassment was abusive, unpleasant, and had the potential to damage his business and safety. So Cartland set up a fake Twitter account impersonating Dr. C on or around the 24th of July 2022. One of Dr. C's friends showed him in a post that Dr. Cartland had made on Telegram containing a link to the fake account and saying, "Look what I have set up. If you don't know this utterly evil man, don't worry. But if you know, you know." Dr. C says in his statement that the biography on the fake account states, "I'm the leader of a bunch of perverse weirdos who take pleasure in abusing, bullying, goading medics, scientists, and people who don't like my sheep emoji, heart emoji, computer games." This is just 2 months after he said, "All I want to do is debate." But it wasn't just that one account. Apparently, in the tribunal, Dr. C went on to exhibit several tweets that Dr. Cartland made on this fake account. He said, "Me and my comrades who are unable to make the grade of the army were second to cyberbullying for the 77th. We call ourselves 77th because that's where we finish in any competition." Another one was, "I love pretending I am a scientist when really I'm a specialist in sheep's arseholes. Just wanting to debate. I really love to treat my 77th comrades the same way I do sheep, slow and steady. Job advert, 77th Twitter Brigade, must be willing to lower self to pseudoscience, be a competent cyberbully, be a single man, and love sheep preferably 2 at a time. Come on, 77th, come out wherever you are. If you are finished with your sheep, Hope you had a fun day with my special friends. And this is a grown man, and B, a person that's presenting himself as a general practitioner, as a doctor, as a representative of the NHS. This seems childish, to be quite honest. So this 77th, okay, I mean, to me, this seems somewhat like grandiose narcissism. I'm such a hero and such a truth teller that the government has sent out people to stop me. It's not just some people disagreeing with me. It's not some people on the internet that think I'm easily led and a bit thick. No, because there's no way I'm entertaining that. Because if that was the case, then, you know, maybe I'm just wrong. But if the government themselves have spent time and money like going after me, I'm a bit like James Bond or someone like that, aren't I? I'm a rogue, and I'm so incredibly cool that the government just needs to stifle me. And it's like, wouldn't that be a colossal waste of everybody's time? Like, why not just like cut off your account? That would be easy. It's doable. It's totally doable, isn't it? Anyway, he also said messages like, my name is Dr. C and I love sheep. On his Telegram, there were numerous posts that relate to sheep and references to the mutton crew, with one post including a photograph depicting an act of bestiality, and another showing a sheep having its throat slit. There is an ongoing suggestion that Dr. C is the ringleader of the 77th. And in case people are confused, the reference to sheep is because Dr. C was not only an immunologist, but also has a farm where he has sheep and he sells the meat. It's a business that he has other than his credentials as a scientist. So what is the 77th? This is a real thing. Okay, the 77th Brigade is a specialised unit of the British Army, which is known for its focus on information operations, psychological warfare, and unconventional methods of engagement in the digital age. Now, its primary goal, or its mission, so to speak, is to combat new forms of warfare in the information environment. And this does involve using social media, data analytics, and psychological operations to influence behaviours and control the narrative during conflicts. And so the idea is that this is a conflict, and so 77th has been used to guide the narrative around COVID. The 77th was created in January 2015, and it's based in Denison Barracks in Hermitage, Berkshire. It combines existing units like the Media Operations Group, and then there's 15 other psychological operations groups that are basically tied into it. The brigade is actually named in tribute to the 77th Indian Infantry Brigade, the original Chindits, who used guerrilla tactics in Burma during World War II. And the badge for the 77th features a chintha, which is a mythical Burmese lion-like creature. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, the brigade did actually work with the Home Office to counter misinformation. Whistleblowers later alleged that the unit monitored the social media posts of UK citizens who were critical of government lockdown policies. While the Ministry of Defence maintains that the unit only analyses publicly available data to understand trends, it does have critics and legitimate critics like Big Brother Watch, who have labelled it somewhat of a ministry of truth for its perceived role in monitoring the British public. So Big Brother Watch, which is an organisation that is concerned with surveillance and freedoms, is also very, very critical of the 77th. And it says, they allege that despite public claims that the unit only targeted foreign adversaries, the 77th Brigade was used to monitor the social media posts of ordinary UK citizens. The group, Big Brother Watch, found evidence that soldiers tracked narratives from journalists, academics, and even sitting MPs such as David Davis and Caroline Lucas, who were critical of government policies like lockdowns and vaccine passports. And Big Brother Watch went on to criticise the secretive nature of the operations, noting that many documents related to the 77th Brigade communications with the Cabinet Office had been deleted or were no longer held by the government. The group claimed that the 77th Brigade, working with other units like the Counter Disinformation Unit, the CDU, flagged posts for removal to social media companies. They noted that 58% of content flagged by the CDU during the pandemic was found not to breach the platform's own terms of service. Now, this is sinister and it has the potential for abuse. However, even Big Brother Watch admitted that there's no evidence at all that the unit employed soldiers to argue with or to troll individual UK citizens. What the 77th supposedly does is monitor trends, like, okay, we've got a lot of people thinking this particular thing, report it back to the government and the Home Office for then later to sort of for people to counter that in the newspapers, on television or something like that. And then the other thing that Big Brother Watch found out that it does is that it deletes posts. So it doesn't seem to argue with people. Now, here's the thing though, okay, I won't believe it as far as they could fucking throw it, to be quite honest. The Big Brother Watch actually has their concern is that it's people being monitored and being quietly catalogued and sort of put into categories. It's not that they're sort of arguing with people, but that doesn't mean that these things don't exist. There's been loads of programs where governments have organized people to argue with people online. Like, for example, Russia had troll factories. A lot of them were supportive of Trump. A lot of them were actually responsible for spreading conspiracy theories, like the idea that HIV was patented by the Americans. That actually genuinely came from a Russian troll campaign. Cambridge Analytica, which I'm very, very keen on talking about, used that exact thing. Sock puppet accounts used to argue with people and to go into chat rooms and to direct the conversation. So, and there was also in America, Operation Earnest Voice did exactly the same thing. It would set up sock puppet accounts. Cambridge Analytica was so sophisticated that these sock puppet accounts would have like long fake histories, and people would be convinced that they were real people that they were talking with, and they would learn their speech patterns and find the most persuasive way of talking to these people in order to make them change their mind. There was another program in the UK called J-Trig that was employed to do very, very similar things. So nobody's pretending that these types of things don't happen, or that they haven't happened in the past. However, all current evidence shows that there's no evidence to link the 77th to any of that. Now, again, the argument is that, well, of course they wouldn't, because it's a secretive type of organization. Fair enough. But there would be one particular way to prove if someone was 77th, or maybe actually to prove that they weren't in the 77th, or rather to strongly suggest that they either are or aren't. Because there is something about the 77th that a lot of people don't sort of grasp. That's that it's an army unit. It's made up of soldiers and army reservists. Now, army reservists are territorial army. Okay, so you have to be either a soldier or in the territorial army, now called the reservists, to be part of the 77th. So most people in the 77th, most of them, would be connected to at least two army units, the 77th and at least one that they've been involved in before. They must. You can't go straight into the 77th. You have to either be a reservist or be in the army. Now, is there any evidence that any of these people that David Cartland has got are in the army? Like, the army's a career. You'll have done it since you were a kid, right? Okay, can you find any evidence that any of these people were in the army or in the territorial army? Because if you can't, then they're almost certainly not in the 77th. You're just saying that because you want it to justify your actions. Can civilians join the 77th? Yes, they can, on the proviso that they become reservists. So if you aspire, this is from the 77th website, if you aspire to join the brigade, you will need to become an army reservist or special reservist. We will have all the advantages of service in the British Army, but you will also be subject to military law and its restrictions. To apply, send us your CV and a brigade application form to the recruiting and engagement team. You must also register an online application with the Army National Recruiting Centre here. Applications are subject to 2-stage SIFT processes, and if successful, we will invite you to an assessment day. If selected at an assessment day, you'll be invited to join the 77th Brigade as a special reservist for up to 3 years, which can be extended subject to Army regulations. This requires 19 days per year of military training per year. The absolute minimum basic training for a specialist reservist is 24.5 days of face-to-face instructions, though this is often split into 2 distinct residential blocks or several weekends. So the foundation model, which is 9 days, can be completed as a single 9-day consolidated block at the National Training Centre, or alternatively, it can be spread over 4 to 5 alternate weekends at a regional army training unit. There's Battle Camp Module 2, which is 15.5 days, and this must be completed at a single full residential camp. It is often held at ATR Grantham and focuses on fieldcraft, live firing, and tactical exercises. The specialist officer variation, if you join the 77th as a professionally qualified officer, the training path is slightly different. The initial training is a series of 4 modules, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. These modules can be completed in a single 8-week package at the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst, or split into 2-week blocks over several months or years. So, 2 things. One, several things, right? One, can you prove that any of these people that you claim to be in the 77th have got any connection to any army unit or any army reservist unit at all? 2, could you look at several of these people and see reasons, I don't know, careers, lifestyle choices, age, disabilities, something like that, that would preclude them from doing basic training and being in the reservists for at least 3 years, which would mean that they couldn't possibly be in the 77th? Do you see what I mean? And there is a further crippling irony to this. What is it that the 77th does? Or according to, it doesn't, but according to Mr. Cartland, what is it that the 77th do? They set up sock puppet accounts, set followers on people, and try and control the narrative when they don't get their own way, which is exactly what Mr. Cartland did. Dr. C says that all 3 of his businesses were targeted by Mr. Cartland and his followers. He says that when Dr. Cartland opened the parody account, he found that the tweets impersonating him were abusive and had the potential to damage his business. He said that some of the posts were insinuations of paedophilia and also insinuations of bestiality, which he felt to be not only abusive, but also unpleasant. He felt that the post showing a sheep having its throat cut was a worrying post and incitement of violence. Dr. C gave examples in the tribunal of posts that concerned him. For example, when referring to the British Army in a post and tagging Dr. C, Cartland states, "Before I leave, I will bring you fuckers down." Cartland will claim that he has evidence that Dr. C was harassing him and that he was collaborating with others in a malicious manner. However, the tribunal will determine that there is absolutely no evidence for this at all. It could find no evidence that Dr. C was harassing or being abusive to Cartland, and it can find no evidence that Dr. C was part of a government counter-information unit. Now, other profiles that were set up by Mr. Cartland to harass and bully people were Dr. Jab, 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 Dr. Jab, Boost, Boost, at Cartland Doctor 1982, at Dr. Cartland, at Dr. Cartland, at Dr. Dave Cartland, at Dr. Quack Quack 82. And then there's another one set up in the actual name of Dr. C. Think about the time and effort that he's put into that. Now, posting as Dr. Jab Boost Boost, Cartland wrote, hoping for a huge apology from the GMC, NHS England, and every single doctor, nurse, and friend that has shunned me for the last 9 months for standing up for basic medical ethics and protecting the safety of children and pregnant women. The backlash and censorship has been appalling. But this is somewhat undercut by other tweets that he put out under Dr. Jab Boost, such as, my GP colleagues need calling out for their cowardly, negligent dereliction of their oath. The lies are being exposed one by one, and the blood is entirely on your complicit, ignorant hands. Sorry if I'm mistaken, but are you up for a debate, or do you plan to get my account nuked with all your pedo friends from the 77th before bottling it like you did with Dr. C? 10-year training in medical sciences with a first-class honours degree, an MBCHB, 15 years clinical practice as a doctor, censored by all social media, bullied, slurred by a load of sheep farming 77th who have free reign to suspend without a shred of data or research papers. That's him complaining about being censored on social media. He then responds to Dr. C and says, you're defo in a pedo's front room. And then, interestingly, sent home from work for the first time ever for refusing to wear a mask in 28 degrees for 8 hours. I was asked to leave, even though I clearly told the matron and clinical director that the masks make me ill with drowsiness and dizziness. Rather shut the department than let me continue to work. So 2 points then. Right, okay. One, like, come on, you've worn a mask. You're a doctor. You've been in clinical settings before. You've done lab work as whilst you were training. Like, you've got numerous degrees and qualifications. This is childish. Of course, you were sent home for refusing to wear a mask, and the idea that it makes you drowsy and dizzy. Come on, like, come on. And then this idea, rather shut down the department than let me continue to work. I bet they carried on just fine without you. So basically, again, just to reiterate, because we were giving him a fair go, but thus far, he's claimed to be a whistleblower without actually having whistleblown about anything that he has found, other than stuff that he's repeated off the internet, which is all proven to be false. And he appears to be attacking other people when he said that he was up for a debate, setting up sock puppet accounts purely to abuse and harass people, encouraging his followers to attack anyone that disagrees with him. And this, again, seems very counter to the image that he's presented of himself as just somebody that's asking legitimate questions. In July 2022, somebody else, Dr. A, informs Dr. Cartland's current employers about his anti-vaccine views on social media. So Dr. A, and this is from the Tribunal, is a consultant obstetrician and maternity vaccine lead. She's the member of an unnamed body counteracting anti-vaccine views on social media. One of Dr. Cartland's complaints, she became aware of him due to his reactions to her tweets on Twitter. She complained to the GMC in November of 2022. Dr. Cartland subsequently threatened her and encouraged his followers to harass her online. She reported experiencing regular abuse online, feeling scared of Dr. Cartland and some of his followers. So this is a woman that basically works in maternity, and she's been saying on Twitter, all the things that you are saying about the vaccine not being safe, you've misunderstood, you've misread the papers, or you're just wrong. And instead of going, okay, let's debate this or look into it, Dr. Cartland decides to threaten her, send his followers after her, and scroll back 18 months on her Twitter feed and responding to tweets as old as that, encouraging pregnant women to take the vaccine by stating incredible claims need incredible evidence to back up. He then asked, and at this point he had over 300,000 followers on Twitter, he asked his followers not to calmly debate with this woman, but to, and I quote, flood her account. In July 2022, he appears on the Sons of Liberty podcast and says that the mRNA vaccines are experimental gene therapy, which is absolutely not true. And this is another thing that he's not figured out himself. He's got this from the internet. Where does this come from? This comes from a couple of documents or news articles that use the word experimental, but they didn't use experimental in the sense that this is something that we don't know what's going to happen. They used it in the understanding of the word that this is new, like, you know, an experimental, like at one point electric cars were experimental. That didn't mean that we didn't know that the motor was going to go. It just meant that it was new. It was an experiment. Are we going to move away from petrol to electric cars, for example? Words can have multiple meanings, and that was another sort of thing that got picked up by the anti-COVID crowd, anti-vax crowd, and used inappropriately. He also then starts to say that people were basically, this is where he's starting to talk about being coerced, and the idea is he says that people were having the vaccine to travel and to be allowed freedom, as opposed to protecting themselves from a virus. He says that everybody like, well, oh, fine, if I've got to travel, I'll have the vaccine, and that's the trade-off that I'll take. And that's how people were coerced, because if you remember at the time, lockdowns, etc., etc., if you want to go abroad, you need to be vaccinated. And I think he misunderstands that, because, like, I know people that were traveling and they didn't say, I will have the vaccine so that I can go to Mexico, for example. They said, I will have the vaccine so that when I go to Mexico, I will feel more comfortable and safe. Also, I'll point out at this point, like, the vaccines for travel is absolutely nothing new. I mean, yes, this is a new vaccine, but the idea of having to take a vaccine to go to certain places is not new. He then makes a claim which is also not true, and he says that he took the vaccine himself, but that he had absolutely no informed consent when he took this. He was not told about the possibility of side effects. He was not told about the potential dangers. He was not told about any of the benefits. He was just given a vaccine, and that's absolutely not true. That is just not true. He says he took the second one because without taking the second one, he couldn't have kept his job. But he also then starts to repeat a trope that he said before, that he says it's suspicious that most COVID and most COVID deaths are with the triple jabbed, people who'd had both vaccines and a booster at this point, but won't accept the explanation. And this is the point. It's like he says, I won't accept the explanation that people have said that this is because they're more vulnerable, and the more vulnerable they are, the more likely they need vaccines, and also that the unvaccinated are less likely to take a test. He knows the counter argument, but refuses to accept it. He says that that's just flim flam. Also, he says that he's absolutely still magnetic. So there's that. The host of this show on Sons of Liberty has an interesting idea for how to combat COVID, and also just basically to keep yourself in general good health. Do you want to have a guess at what the host of this program that Mr. Cartland appears on recommends?
Urine.
Not far off. Urine would be better. He recommends drinking bleach.
Oh.
MMS, Miracle Mineral Solution. He says he gives it to his family and gives it to his children all the time. And this is the person that Dr. Cartland is appearing with. So what's MMS? What's Miracle Mineral Solution?
Is this guy Jim Jones or what?
It might as well be. MMS is typically sold in a kit containing two primary liquids that must be mixed before consumption. One of them is sodium chloride, a solution that is 28% sodium chloride in distilled water. This is a chemical used industrially for textile bleaching and as a disinfectant. And then a second bottle will have an acid, which is an activator, like citric acid, or often lemon or lime juice, vinegar, or hydrochloric acid. So when these two are mixed, they produce chlorine dioxide, which is a potent bleaching agent and hazardous gas, which is used for industrial water treatment and paper pulping. The host of this show recommends drinking this and also giving it to your children for general good health. Now, ingesting MMS can cause immediate and life-threatening damage to the body. Health officials from the US FDA and also MedSafe have reported the following: severe gastrointestinal distress, intense nausea, vomiting, and severe diarrhea, and life-threatening dehydration. Extreme fluid loss through the vomiting and diarrhea can lead to dangerously low blood pressure, known as hypotension, which can kill people. Reports also include acute liver failure and damage to the lining of the gastrointestinal tract, and blood disorders, because consumption can destroy red blood cells, potentially causing hemolytic anemia and respiratory failure. Cartland responds to this by saying that he was marched off his most recent job, which he actually said that he resigned from, but he says that he was essentially marched off the grounds for refusing to wear a mask. So that's obviously the incident that he tweeted out about. The host says that all vaccines are harmful. All vaccines are harmful and that you shouldn't take any. And Cartland, who at that time was a doctor, does not push back. He then goes on to suggest that COVID isn't really that dangerous, and all that the deaths that are being attributed to COVID are either vaccine deaths or midazolam murders, which we have discussed here before. It's absolute nonsense. It was a chap, a very strange pro-life Catholic guy called Patrick Palinko, noticed that the UK had bought a load of sedatives, midazolam. And there was two reasons that he bought this midazolam. One was because there was other sedatives weren't available, and two, because midazolam is used to help people on respirators and actually in end-of-life care to make death less painful and panic-inducing. But what they picked up on was, wow, there's a lot of that. And then they discovered that midazolam is one of the drugs that is used in some lethal injections in America. It's not the thing that kills you. It's the thing that stops you from having a panic attack whilst the other thing kills you. But that doesn't matter. Essentially, there's zero evidence to support this idea that doctors and nurses en masse had decided to mass euthanize not only the elderly, but people in their, all ages, essentially. There were people of all ages dying from COVID. This would suggest that all of those people were murdered by doctors and nurses. It's nonsense. It's absolute nonsense. It was stolen by Jackie Devoy from this idiot Patrick Palinko, and then other people started repeating it as though it was fact, and there's absolutely no evidence to support it. It's stupid. It's the sort of thing that a stupid person would say, and in order to sort of highlight this point, Cartland then mentions that funeral director John O'Looney is a credible person. For people that don't know who John O'Looney is, he's a bit of a grifter that pretended that COVID didn't exist until he almost died from COVID. He's a funeral director, and he keeps claiming to find fibrous white clots in people that have died supposedly from vaccine damage. Of course, their death certificates don't say this, but he, with absolutely no medical knowledge, knows better. Now, other people that work in the industry, people that would do autopsies and stuff, have pointed out two things when he's shown these images. One, that these white, fatty, fibrous clots is just simply what happens after death, and this is nothing unusual and doesn't indicate any foul play or any pattern of strange behavior or anything like that. And two, that some of the pictures that John O'Looney showed that were supposedly things that were taken out of the human body, which, by the way, he shouldn't have taken out of the human body, but that's beside the point, were clearly the roots of flowers that he'd pulled up in his garden and tried to present as something unusual. I hope we're all getting some sort of idea of the level of evidence that is being presented. In August 2022, Cartland appears on the Delling Pod. And this is interesting. You'll like this. James Delingpole describes being a conspiracy theorist as being a hero. He says, and I quote, and he mentions Ole Dammegard. Ole Dammegard is another conspiracy theorist but thinks everything's fake, I believe. I can't remember what he's particularly into, but yeah, I think he thinks things are fake. It's what Ale Damagard describes as the hero's journey. It's the journey from ignorance to awareness. And it's very hard won, this process, because once you see the truth, you're made to suffer for it. And you see the world as a much darker place, but at the same time, you know so much more about how things really are. This is absolutely ironic because it's almost the perfect explanation of the Joseph Campbell explanation of the hero's journey that many people, we've discussed it before, many people in the conspiracy world and outside of the conspiracy world apply this narrative to themselves as a way of avoiding reality, making the world simpler and positioning yourself as just. So anything that goes against you is because you're on this journey. Taking flack because you're over the target. Not you're being attacked by government agents of the 77th degree. That's because you're a brave whistleblower. Like any doubts that you have about yourself, get rid of those. That's the long, dark night of the soul. You'll have to strive, and it won't be easy. It won't be easy. You'll have to take the spears and arrows, but ultimately it'll be worth it. And essentially, this is a way that some people use to behave terribly and be a very bad person, but to justify any pushback that they have against that as part of this ongoing hero's quest that they're doing.
We had a really good conversation with John Ronson about this. Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. So people should go and listen to that. Absolutely. But this is it. And the irony that basically they're kind of framing it. Well, they're in it. They're too close to it. They're framing it as that they are in this journey and that they're right. And there's no possibility that they could be wrong, because then everything collapses. Also on the Delling pod, Mr. Cartland claims to have brain fog from the vaccine. So he's now claiming to be vaccine damaged as well, and this is, as far as I'm aware, the first time that he's claimed this. He sometimes continues saying this nowadays, but it is sort of intermittent. Now, I know we should be cruel, but if he's vaccine damaged and has got brain fog, why on earth should we trust his judgment? Anyway, he also claims to have seen lots and lots of blood clots and other illnesses following vaccinations, but he's not massively specific. He repeats that masks are useless, and he cites a study taken from Nature magazine that said that masks were like Petri dishes against your face. Essentially, that all they do is catch the germs there, and you keep breathing in your own germs, and it creates the perfect environment for illness. A July 2022 study in Nature journal Scientific Reports titled Bacterial and Fungal Isolation for Face Masks under the COVID-19 pandemic found that bacteria and fungi accumulate on mask surfaces during use. The study identified higher bacterial counts on the inner mask side and higher fungal counts on the outer side, leading to public comparison of worn masks to Petri dishes due to the potential for microbial growth if not cleaned. However, the study did not, as Mr. Cartland said, conclude that masks were useless. Instead, the authors stated that evidence supports the effectiveness of masks against SARS-CoV-2, focusing on mask hygiene and recommending non-woven masks for immunocompromised individuals. The lead author clarified that the study was continually misrepresented and that they support mask wearing to prevent respiratory illness. Mr. Cartland then refers to the 2022 Pfizer data dump, and he claims that there's evidence of data from the vaccine in that. And as evidence for this, he says, with Delingpole, that did you know that Pfizer tried to lock up the data from their trials for 75 years, but that there is a list of side effects and they're horrific. He says that he's read all the documents. He's read every single document in the entire dump, and you wouldn't, this is a direct quote from Cartland, you wouldn't let your rabbit near these injections, let alone your daughter or your fiance. Apparently the man loves his rabbit. Anyway, In late 2021, a group called Public Health and Medical Professionals for Transparency, the PHMPT, or PUMFT, as the kids call them, sued the FDA under the Freedom of Information Act to obtain all data used to license the vaccine. In January 2022, a federal judge in Texas rejected the FDA's proposal to release the documents over a period of 75 years. Instead, the court ordered the agency to provide roughly 55,000 pages per month. So, several things here, okay? If it's 55,000 pages per month, I think it's very unlikely that he's read all of those pages. And secondly, this is another common trope of anti-vaxxers that is not true. The idea was that Pfizer didn't want the public to see their data, so they said that they needed 75 years to release it. But that's not what happened. What happened was that the FDA wanted to release the data. And when the FDA responds to a freedom of information request, like any government body, they don't have that many people that are assigned to do it. Usually the request will go to one person and they're supposed to do like their own job at the same time. So basically, like, you can actually reject freedom of information requests on the idea that it would be too much work. There's too much documentation in there and whatnot. What happened in this is they said, yeah, we could do it, but we need to go through the documentation first and remove any data that could identify somebody, because this is trial data. So these people's names, ages, medical stuff. We need to make it so that this is anonymized, and that will take its time. Because we have limited staff to do that, it would take us 75 years to do that. So Pfizer, it wasn't Pfizer that didn't want to release the data. It was the FDA, and it wasn't because they didn't want to release the data. It was just because in the way that it was wanting to be received, the procedure would have taken that long. This was all got around because Pfizer provided all the data anyway. So they released it. They did the retractions and they released it. So nobody had to wait 75 years. One of the documents which was included in the 2022 releases contained something called the Cumulative Analysis of Post-Authorization Adverse Event Reports. And it listed thousands of adverse events of special interest, or what's called ACEs, AESIs. Now, if Mr. Cartland had read this, as he claims to have done, maybe he skipped over the title, because viral posts claim that this was a list of confirmed side effects caused by the vaccine, but the list actually included any medical event reported after vaccination, regarded of whether the vaccine was the cause or in fact anything to do with it. Experts noted that reports of deaths or illnesses in these documents do not establish a causal link. Or what the actual list of conditions was, the ASI list that people keep putting around, is things that they are looking for. If any of this happens, report it. It's not that this has already happened. There was a part of it where basically there was some things that they said there was, but it wasn't connected to the vaccine. But that's what the ACs are. It's not things that have happened. It's things that they're looking for. And so that is another thing that has been misunderstood or misrepresented. Mr. Cartland then claims that the mRNA is actually a gene therapy. It absolutely isn't. It doesn't touch your genes. It doesn't go anywhere near the nucleus of cells. It has nothing in it that can alter your DNA or your genetics in any way. He says that the spike protein from the vaccine penetrates the blood-brain barrier and accumulates in testicles. So, claims regarding the accumulation of vaccine components in the testicles are primarily based on preclinical animal data, which was submitted during the regulatory approval process. So in the Pfizer Biotech EMA assessment report, preclinical biodistribution studies in rats using radio-lapelled lipid nanoparticles showed that the small fraction of the total dose reached several organs beyond the injection site and liver. Specifically, the report noted low-level distribution to adrenal glands, spleen, ovaries, and testes. However, extensive follow-up research in humans consistently found no negative impact on male fertility or sperm parameters following vaccination. In the Moderna preclinical data, biodistribution studies in Sprague-Dawley rats submitted to the European Medical Agency, the EMA, revealed low levels of mRNA in the brain. suggesting that potentially NLPs can cross the blood-brain barrier. But this was, again, not repeated in humans. Animal testing is done to see if these effects happen. And then obviously this is done in humans afterwards. And it just didn't happen, basically. Cartland reiterates that all he wants to do is discuss the data. But this is after he set up several sock puppet accounts to mimic, mock, and attack Dr. C, sent him bestiality, and also called for people to pile on an obstetrician and flood her Twitter page with abuse simply for her disagreeing with him. Also in that month, he has a chat with Matt Letitia, which must have been nice. In October 2022, under the name Dr. Quack Quack Quack, Mr. Cartland contacts a Mr. Brent Lee. He texts him, "How the hell did you get involved in this bunch of idiots? Where are your morals, Brent? Why do you stand by these people given your ex-conspiracy theorist background? Can't you see that you've fallen again? Why has Dr. C blocked me? I thought he wanted to have a debate. Let's get the Dr. C Cartland debate on pay-per-view right now, lol." And then about 5 minutes later, he tweets, he texts you, "What a cunt." At this point, despite, as we say, having set up numerous sock puppet accounts to harass Dr. C and also encouraging his followers to attack Dr. A, Cartland contacts Brent Lee of Some Dare Call It Conspiracy to try and set up a debate with Dr. C. And it starts off friendly enough. And I hope you don't mind, but we have these messages and we're going to go through a few of them. Brent Lee, "Hey, I thought it'd be easy to contact here. Are either of those two dates I sent you okay?" Mr. Cartland, "That's better, a bit easier to arrange. Yes, I'm free for both, so happy for either. Are we voting for the subject? What's the format?" And then they discuss the format and the potential dates. Mr. Cartland, "I'm happy for Dr. C to choose or to go first or second rather than a coin flip, and I'm happy for any topic to be discussed over and above the 4 previously voted on, as long as it's not too obscure, like I don't want to get into flat earth, lol." Then goes on to say, "I can't do Thursday, I'm afraid. I'm going to London. Tuesday is the only day of the week, but can do it the following week. Any day?" And Brent responds, "Okay, I've chased them up and I've asked them if they could do Tuesday instead or the week after. I'll get back to you as soon as I get an answer off both. Dr. C wants to debate pediatric vaccinations. Do you want to choose the second topic and we can skip the poll? Tuesday is good for all concerned." Mr. Cartland, "Awesome. So if you can confirm the date and time, I'm happy to get the word out." But there is a problem because Cartland is banned from a lot of platforms. It's not exactly clear why, as he doesn't say, but he doesn't paint it in the best light. But he says, "I can't do here, I can't do here, and I can't do here. I'm banned from all of these places." But he also seems to have some sort of idea or delusion about how much influence you have over Elon Musk, Brent. Because at one point he says, Mr. Cartland says,
I don't know if Twitter was Elon Musk at that time.
Oh, good point. Maybe it wasn't actually. Like this was before the dark times. Like maybe. Anyway, Mr. Cartland says, "I'm banned from Twitter, I'm banned from Facebook, I'm banned from Insta, LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. So I only have Getter. Whatever you think is best. I'm not a big fan of Twitter given the censorship. A fair and open debate is long overdue, and cancel culture just isn't science. Are you guys are well enough connected to get my old Twitter account reinstated, surely?" To which Brent responds, "Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm not connected at all. I'm literally just an ex-truther who decided to speak out and share my experiences from my time down the rabbit hole." You sure you weren't secretly in the army all that time, Brent?
Too much weed?
There you go. Cartland then goes on to say, "Why has Dr. C agreed to debate me? I'm a family doctor. Why did he pick me? Mate, fuck off. Come on. You know why he picked you. You picked him. Like, he didn't pick you. This idea that, like, oh, I've not been setting up sock puppet accounts. I've not been, like, coordinating abuse. I've not been doing everything that I've accused other people of doing to me and then claimed that they're the 77th. Wouldn't it be ironic if it turned out that Mr. Cartland was actually in the 77th? Through the looking glass here, people. Anyway, Mr. Cartland says, why has he agreed to debate me? I'm a family doctor. Why did he pick me and Zoe Harcum? Why not Steve Kirsch? He's offered £1 million for the same debate. And Mike Yeadon, or someone like Claire Craig, Peter McCullough, or Dr. Malone. I know these people and I can make it happen. But he seems to want to choose people like me. Would he be up for someone more decorated in the same area as he is, or immunology? Shouldn't be too hard to mop the floor with the above. Surely he'd want to debate the creme de la creme of anti-vaxxer. Let me know his thoughts on whether he wants to upgrade who he debates with, other than the family doctor from Cornwall. I'm still happy to debate, by the way, just interested to know why he's aimed this at me. And so again, it's probably because of these sort of sock puppet accounts and the coordinated attack that you had against him. It's possibly something to do with that. So anyway, who are all these people that he mentions? Peter McCullough is a US cardiologist that promotes the McCullough protocol, which emphasized early treatment for COVID using drugs like hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, treatments that major health organizations and all experimentation has found to be completely ineffective for COVID-19. McCullough claimed that 85% of COVID-19 hospitalizations and deaths were avoidable through early home treatment with these drugs. But fact checkers and scientists found that his evidence relied on observational studies and had no proper control groups, making these statistical claims completely unreliable. He became a vocal critic of mRNA vaccines, frequently appearing on popular media like the Joe Rogan Experience to discuss concerns about vaccine safety and spike protein toxicity. But by January 2025, the American Board of Internal Medicine officially revoked his board certification in internal medicine and cardiovascular disease due to the promotion of misinformation. But don't worry, though, because through his wellness company, patients can still access telehealth services, which means him talking to you over the phone, I believe, and specialized packages related to his protocols. A virtual doctor visit, so talking over the phone, is a mere $60 for members. A vaccine exemption letter from McCullough is a mere $200. Specialized recovery packages, both the adverse reaction recovery for vaccine injury and the long COVID relief packages, are priced approximately, well, a snip really, at just $1,000. The core wellness package is only $579.99, while the optimal wellness package is $999.99 for members only. So, you know, those margins are shaved to the absolute bone. You don't want to think that this person is in any way a grifter that, you know, spreads misinformation to terrify people. McCullough argued that COVID-19 cannot be spread by people without symptoms. Scientific consensus, including data from the WHO, confirms that asymptomatic and pre-symptomatic individuals can and do transmit the virus. He also claimed that natural immunity is complete and durable and cannot be improved by vaccination, which is nonsense. Studies from the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention and others show that vaccination significantly reduces the risk of reinfection, even for those previously infected. He frequently claimed that COVID-19 vaccines have caused a massive surge in deaths, and at one point suggesting they were responsible for 74% of deaths in a specific autopsy study. This study, however, was retracted due to flawed methodology and misrepresentation of data. He has linked mRNA vaccines to sudden cardiac death and metabolic cardiomyopathy in many young athletes. Multiple large studies, including those published in Circulation, have found no association between vaccination and increased sudden cardiac arrest. In fact, the risk of myocarditis is significantly higher after a COVID-19 infection rather than after vaccination. So that's why he's not debated him, although I believe he probably would. But the man's just a quack. Dr. Claire Craig is a diagnostic pathologist and co-chair of the Health Advisor and Recovery Team, HEART. She's frequently argued that PCR testing overestimates causes and deaths because it detects minute, inconsequential amounts of virus, which is not true. She also contends that the concept of asymptomatic transmission was a misunderstanding and that infectious diseases are primarily spread by those who are visibly ill, which is also not true. In early January 2021, Claire Craig stated that there were no significant excess deaths compared to the 5-year average. But critics pointed out that at the time that she made this claim, weekly death registrations in the UK had already exceeded the baseline for 15 consecutive weeks. Craig argued that the autumn 2020 rise in cases was a pseudo-epidemic caused by high false positive rates from PCR tests. And while she contended that PCR tests were detecting inconsequential amounts of virus, health data and hospital admissions and deaths consistently rose in tandem with these positive tests. Experts noted that the outbreak were merely a result of false positives, a miscarriage of diagnosis. It would not have resulted in the corresponding massive increase in hospitalizations and deaths that followed. In 2022, a video by Claire Craig went viral after she claimed that thousands of children didn't make it to the end of a Pfizer trial for toddlers. That sounds horrific, but medical fact checkers noted that this is a misrepresentation of how clinical trials work. Participants dropping out or being excluded for failing to meet specific follow-up criteria is standard and does not imply injury or death, as she inferred in her phrasing. Steve Kirsch is an American serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, and controversial figure, just a sad attention seeker, known both for his actually significant contributions to early internet technology and his later role as a prominent spreader of COVID-19 vaccine misinformation. Kirsch eventually became a leading promoter of the widely debunked claims regarding COVID-19 vaccines. Experts and fact checkers, including Science Feedback and MIT Technology Review, have repeatedly pointed out that all he does is misrepresent the VAERS database to claim that vaccines are more dangerous than the virus itself. And he's actually done several debates. He always loses, always rage quits, and then always refuses to pay the $1 million that he bet at the beginning of the debate. Anyway, Brent goes to Cartland. I'm not sure of the history. All I know is when this was initially brought to my attention, you both wanted to debate each other, so I tried to set it up. He does want to debate those people. But this time around, I took the initiative to set it up and get it over with because you were lying and talking shit about me on your Telegram. So I spoke with a lady's name and asked if she would be interested in hosting a both sides debate with me, and here we are. For some reason, Cartland then says that he doesn't want to debate on Twitter. And Brent says that's absolutely fine if he wants to set it up somewhere else. But he's got this Twitter space, which was what was discussed at the time. And so if he wants to do what we've already discussed, that's absolutely fine. And the details are finally confirmed. Brent Lee says, topic 1 is the COVID vaccine safe for children? And topic 2 is SAD, sudden adult death syndrome, vaccine, COVID, or something else. And Mr. Cartland responds, they're great topics. And then he gets really weird about what he feels is Dr. C's influence. And again, similar to how he thought that potentially you knew the blokes at Twitter, you knew, was it Jack Dorsey at the time? Obviously, Dr. C knows people who know how to get Twitter accounts nuked. How about as a goodwill gesture for agreeing to do this debate, that he speaks to Twitter and his Twitter friends and gets my account reinstated, at least in the interest of a person being able to defend themselves against stuff being said. Surely as a scientist, he must agree cancel culture isn't conducive to good science and debate discussion. This is a man that encouraged people to pile on an obstetrician because she disagreed with him. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in that because it does get much worse. Brent Lee goes on to say, I don't believe he has any sway. If he did, he'd at the very least have a blue tick, which is a very good point. The thing is, Dave, you posted stuff that was against the terms and conditions. People reported it and you got the boot. You have to accept responsibility for your own bans. There's no conspiracy. We're really not in the 77th. It was all a joke. However, I will screenshot you and your request and send it to him just in case I've been had. Mr. Cartland says, I read the terms and conditions and I didn't believe I had, neither did I have a chance to appeal or be told the exact post that broke the T's and C's. I think a bit like the 77th rumor. Likewise, I have been misunderstood given that I am a GP who took the vaccine, believed all the claims, and then made unnerving observations with face-to-face patients. You've not mentioned that. You've never mentioned that. You've mentioned someone that had arthritis and someone that had skin blisters. Like that's not what he's doing, is it? You're repeating contrarian stuff off the internet. If a patient can't walk the day after the vaccine has to at least be in a differential diagnosis. That'll be the arthritis one. I saw the harms directly. My observation of those with COVID positive status being all vaccinated was a real audit that I did. My concerns regarding children, I will explain regarding risk-benefit analysis during the debate. This was matched by the pregnancy issue. Pharmacists not issuing hemorrhoid cream without a script to a pregnant patient, yet happy to give an mRNA vaccine thrice on scanty short-term and long-term data. Again, you've misunderstood the data and you're not going to die, right, because someone stood next to you had hemorrhoids. But you could with COVID. So you're somewhat comparing apples and oranges there. I get the conspiracy theory stuff, but have stayed in my lane. My posting of more obscure stuff isn't me endorsing a particular view. It very much is, because you're a doctor. The magnet thing wasn't anything I went looking for. It was a fellow doctor who rang me up aghast at the observation. He asked me to try it, and lo and behold, Dr. Magneto was born. You're more than welcome to slam one on my arm yourself, as many other skeptics have. Anyway, I'm yet to understood how being vaccinated fully for all previous things and all my children too, and also being COVID vaccinated, how that qualifies me as a conspiracy theorist anti-vaxxer. Well, it's because of all the conspiracy theories that you tell in the sort of, for the purpose of getting people not to use the vaccine. I don't know how clear I can be. Anyway, really looking forward to the debate and appreciate the fact that you've facilitated this. There has been no debate. I don't think it's about winning and losing. It's about representing both sides of the debate and letting people decide without censorship. And then he sends you a load of videos and Brent agrees to watch some of them. These are regarding the vaccine. Appreciate if you do. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, contrary to the accusations. I'm just a family man and a family doctor dealing with real people. Look forward to Tuesday and take care. See you then. On the day of the debate, David complains that he can't download the Twitter app. We'll find a way. Don't worry. Even if I have to knock the neighbors' doors, it's audio only. Yeah. Also, how do I get into the debate? Just log into the account details and you sent, and then click what link. It would be good to chat to Dr. C anyway after the debate, as I'm willing to learn from him. Likewise, if he's open-minded. I'm all about sharing information and raising awareness. And yes, that includes differences of opinion. So what happened here, Brent? Because I had absolutely no involvement in this at all. I had no knowledge who David Cartland was. I wasn't involved in the debate. I wasn't involved in the arrangement for him. I've never personally had any interaction with Dr. David Cartland, other than when he emailed me out of the blue accusing me of being somebody that I'm not. And so what happened here? How did he get in touch? What was he talking shit about you on Telegram? Why was he doing that?
So yeah, I was tagged one day. I think we went back on the timeline. It was May 2022.
Yeah.
And there was obviously this talk amongst all like people that followed me on Twitter because of my conspiracy, videos. They were like tagging me saying like, oh, Brent Lee will host it. Brent Lee can host this debate. MC Toon like tweeted something about, oh, if Brent doesn't want to host it, I'll host it. And I was like, what's going on here? I don't understand. And it turned out it was this Dr. C and from in the tribunal and this Dr. Cartland kind of going back and forth saying that, yeah, that they would have a debate. Both people were basically saying, name the venue, I'll be there. You know,
Right.
so I stepped up and was like, all right, cool, yeah. I'm at that time, you know, as we still are, we're interested in hearing both sides
Yeah.
or all sides of arguments and just hearing stuff out, you know. We're not about shutting down debate, and that's what I wanted to do. I thought this would be interesting to get two people to actually talk about it, but I thought I could, I don't know.
Mediate.
Yeah, mediate, but be non-bias in a
Yeah.
way. You know, I have my opinion, but I do respect, I guess, being the position of being a conspiracy theorist. I'm
Yeah.
not going to shut them down in the same way that, I don't know, someone else hosting a debate might.
But at the same time, you kind of understood the sort of like the dot connecting aspect of it. Like, oh, this has come from this piece of paper was connected to Portadown. Immediately, that means that in the conspiracy world, it's dodgy. It's like, well, what does it actually say? Or some stuff like that, for example. So you were in a sort of unique position to be a good sort of a host for that and moderator as well. I believe you were, weren't you? So
yeah, I felt I was, and I did, you know, say to Cartland that I'd be up for it. He rejected me the very first instance that I asked.
Like, oh, did he?
Saw my bio, and he said, I think my bio at the time was something about the New World Order as a myth.
Right.
And he like quote tweeted that and said like it's, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was something like, oh yeah, right, as if you'll be non-biased or
yeah.
You know. So I tried to facilitate it in a few different ways because I was thinking, well, how can I prove to you that I want this to be a fair debate? Like, I want to be there and make it fair. So I did approach another conspiracy Twitter influencer. She was kind of up for it, and then she pulled out for certain reasons. I did suggest doing it with you as well as an extra mediator. And basically, it kind of didn't happen at first. And after I think it was a few months, wasn't it?
It wasn't until October of 2022.
October, yeah.
That the debate was
over those months, obviously, David started to see who I was and see what I was posting, and he'd kind of jump in here and there and, you know, accuse me of being 77th because I became kind of allied with Dr. C.
Right.
And
okay.
His followers and my followers, and everyone was kind of connected because we were out there kind of combating misinformation, you know.
Well, everyone was bored. We were sat at home as well during the lockdown. Was this at that time, or
no?
Like,
this is 2022. This is between May 2022 and October 2022.
Yeah, it was after. That was ages afterwards. Like, God Christ, yeah, we're back at work doing all sorts of crap then. Like,
yeah, but it took a while to set it up, and eventually we did set it up. Because he kept saying something. He kept saying like everyone ran away from the debate. No one wanted to debate him. Yada yada yada. And that's where I was saying, like, you're chatting shit in your Telegram, because people were sending me screenshots saying how Dr. C bottled it and Brentley can't set it up and yada yada yada. And he's
oh, okay.
All the 77s, all this stuff. So that's why I got in touch with him. It's like, let's set this up.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
I spoke to Dr. C. They're up for it. Let's do this. If you want to do this, let's do this.
No, that makes perfect sense. Now it's interesting that he was talking about people bottling it and not turning up for the debate, because as we know, Mr. Cartland bottled it and didn't turn up for the debate. Not only that, he sent his mum, or not his mum exactly, but I sat down. You'd messaged me going, "Oh, there's a debate going on tonight. Oh, do you need me involved?" No. Who is it? Blah blah blah. Never heard of him. Right, I'll listen in. And when the reveal for Mr. Cartland, a slightly shrill elderly lady's voice came across the airwaves, and for some reason, Mr. Cartland had decided to send Dolores Cahill, and she proceeded to make a fool of herself.
I should actually say, like, what also happened right before this debate, that day that he's claiming he cannot get onto Twitter from his phone.
Yeah.
Is I set up a sock puppet account for him.
Oh, so that, right. Okay. Right.
With
okay.
one of my like alt emails and a password and like registered to my phone number or whatever, but so that he could get on Twitter to have this space. So
Here,
he's
Cartland,
sent the details to Dolores as well. So she could log in. And I just was expecting, I think the account was like guest speaker and then a bunch of numbers.
It wasn't Brent Lee, 77th soldier. But anywho, so Dolores Cahill turned up, and she just was, again, just repeating tropes off the internet, and she was very much out of her depth. And Dr. C, who'd prepared, listened to all of her arguments and said, right, okay, this is where you got that from, and this is why it's wrong. And it was a comprehensive dismantling of some very, very poor arguments, as far as I recall. So Dolores Cahill is an Irish molecular biologist and former professor of translational science who became a prominent figure in the anti-vaccination and COVID-19 skeptic movements. And she's got credentials. She's a well-respected researcher at the Max Planck Institute in Germany and a member of various international scientific advisory boards. But she faced widespread professional and legal challenges starting in 2020 due to her public claims about the pandemic. So she served as a professor for University College Dublin at the School of Medicine from 2005 until 2021. I've been there, not to study, just to potter around, and I went to see the Black Dahlia murder. Anyway, her academic work focused on proteomics, protein arrays, and biomarker discovery, including co-founding the biomedical company Protogen AG. Oh, so she's big pharma. She previously advised the Irish government on science policy and was a member of several EU scientific committees. But because you see, my conspiracy brain twigged there, because they're all things that normally would make people sort of very suspicious of her. But obviously, when you say the right things, they give you credentials as a legit whistleblower. Anyway, during the pandemic, Cahill's public statements led her to distancing from the mainstream medical community. She frequently asserted that COVID-19 was a hoax and claimed that masks lowered children's IQ by depriving them of oxygen. And she stated that mRNA vaccines would cause mass deaths within a few years, both of which are just silly. Just very silly. In response to her claims, over 130 University College of Dublin medical students signed a 33-page letter in 2022 to debunk her assertions. So that's embarrassing. She's like she's a lecturer there. Students debunked her nonsense. She was asked to resign as vice chair of the EU's Innovative Medicines Initiative in 2020, and she left her position at the University College Dublin in late 2021. So Cartland set up this debate and accused other people of bottling it, and then didn't turn up himself. But you've got to remember that basically, again, all he's interested in is talking about things. That's what he's there for. He wants to be educated. He's open to discussion if people are like-minded. So what he did next seems particularly poor form. In November 2022, Miss J, a practice manager, emails Dr. Cartland advising him that his job application for a salaried GP role will not be processed further due to his anti-vaccine views. So Miss J is a former operational practice manager at a health centre. So she runs a health centre, and Mr. Cartland had applied for a job there. Like, he's either resigned or been marched off his previous job for refusing to wear a mask. And so he's looking for work. So she receives an email of interest from Dr. Cartland for a GP position, and after Googling him, decided not to proceed with his application due to his anti-vaccine views, which he's expressing on social media. So this is her response to his application. Dear David, thank you for your interest in the salaried GP role. Unfortunately, we are a proactive vaccination centre, and we feel that you do not fulfil the ethos of the practice and will be not processing your interest any further. We wish you well in your employment search. Kind regards. Does that seem aggressive? Does that seem nasty? Like, that's just a standard rejection from a job offer. There's all sorts of reasons that you might be rejected for a job offer. And she's actually giving him sort of constructive criticism. And actually, this is correct. How could he possibly work at a vaccination centre with his views? So we've all had job offers turned down in the past. You pick yourself up, you brush yourself up, you apply for another job. But that's not what Mr. Cartland decided to do. Mr. Cartland then decided to go on his social media and share Mrs. J's email, full name, job role, the address of the practice where she worked, and put this on all of his social media. He did this on Getter and X, and he did this multiple times. And this led to her receiving hate mail and being, according to the tribunal, shocked and concerned for her safety. And she had to not only call call the police for herself, but advised staff working in the practice to also be wary of their safety and inform the police that there may be a danger to the practice. He also decides to get his followers to start harassing her. This is a man who has claimed that he just wants open debate. On November the 12th, Dr. A finally reports, this is the obstetrician, reports Dr. Cartland's online behaviour and anti-vaccine views to the GMC. So basically what she'd done is she previously got in touch with his employer and said, this guy, you're a vaccination centre. This guy's promoting anti-vax stuff. It didn't actually lead to anything as far as we could tell. Well, we don't know because either he resigned or he was marched off the job for not wearing a mask. But at no point has he said, I was sacked because this obstetrician pointed out that I was saying crazy things about the vaccine and pregnant women. Okay. He then gets his followers to flood her account and pesters her for essentially 6 months, according to the tribunal. And at this point, Dr. A says, according to the tribunal, on the 12th of November 2022, I sent an email to the GMC advising that Dr. Cartland was promoting anti-vaccine conspiracy theories on Twitter and had retweeted some of my tweets whilst also encouraging his followers on social media to abuse me. On the 27th of November, Dr. Cartland posts a screenshot of Miss J's email on his Getter account. Again, so this is the woman that's very politely turned him down for a job offer. And he doxes her by posting, again, her full name, her email, her job role, the practice name. This is, as quoted, I'm quoting the tribunal here, this is intending to encourage harassment. And then again, this is a woman that politely told him that they didn't have a job for him. There's a Getter post from Dr. Cartland dated the 27th of November 2022, and it's posted at 9:11 p.m. Ooh, there are no coincidences. Miss J's email has been screenshot and it is posted in full, and Miss J's full name, her job role, the name of the practice are all visible. Her personal work email is at the top of the post. So the following day, Miss J begins receiving abusive emails related to Dr. Cartland's post, including some mentioning his name and one from a well-known anti-vaccine protester. She said that after the 28th of November, she started to receive emails from numerous other people. She says she received about 10 in total, and they're related to the COVID-19 vaccine. Some of the emails mentioned Dr. Cartland by name. She began to get worried as one of the emails was from a well-known anti-vaccine protester who had poured blood on a vaccine centre in Cornwall. Now, this was reported in the BBC. Now, that's the tribunal saying that it's blood. In this report, it says paint. or graffiti. So it's not clear if it was blood or whether it was red paint. Either way, still not great. This was reported Truro vaccination centre targeted by vandals twice in the BBC. Police are investigating after a COVID vaccination centre was targeted by vandals for a second time in a week. Graffiti was sprayed on the walls and temporary marquees were slashed at the site of the Mount Hawke surgery in Truro, Cornwall. Repairs have been carried out and CCTV installed so that vaccinations can be carried out as planned on Tuesday. The marquees, where 25,000 vaccines have been administered since January. Chris Whitworth, a GP at the surgery, said he was angry and disappointed with the situation. The vaccination program has been received greatly in the local population, so to have something like this happen over the last week is a real kick in the teeth. It's really sad that we're going to have to get all of this repaired, which is obviously going to cost the NHS money at a time when we all know that the health service is under huge pressure. To have to spend money on this is poor. There was a follow-up story about the same incident and the man who emailed Mrs. J, who was a follower of Mr. Cartland's. This is again in the BBC. Cornwall school and NHS bomb hoax man jailed. A man who carried out a series of bomb hoaxes against a school and an NHS centre and slashed a COVID-19 vaccination marquee has been jailed. Rodney Peasley, 66, of Radnor Road, Scoria in Cornwall, told a school there were multiple devices inside that would detonate randomly. He admitted 3 counts of making bomb hoaxes and 4 counts of causing criminal damage. He was jailed for a total of 21 months. 2 of the 3 bomb hoaxes, all made on 19th of November last year, were made in phone calls to Richard Lander School in Truro. One was against the Kernow Health NHS Centre, which was administering vaccinations for the school's pupils. The bomb hoaxes led to the secondary school being evacuated and a major incident being declared by police and the NHS. Peasley pleaded guilty to damaging a vaccination centre in the village of Mount Hawke between the 26th of October and the 17th of November. The damage to the vaccination centre, which included the slashing of a marquee, was estimated to have cost over £16,000 to repair. Examples of the comments. So that's one of the people that was emailing Mrs. J and essentially threatening her. Examples of the comments that she received in the emails read, "You are complicit in murder. You need to be ashamed of yourself for what you're doing and what you're allowing." So, and then her name. "Far from denigrating Dr. Cartland, you should be doing your own research into the crimes against humanity that you and your colleagues seem to be oblivious to, as you are a small cog in a great big machine of crime. You should be educating yourself, conducting your own research, just as Dr. Cartland and many other medics have done, and find out for yourself the true horrors that you are responsible for. Crimes against humanity." And then another one said, "The below has come to my attention. What an utter disgrace." And they was talking about her polite response to Dr. Cartland saying that he hasn't got a job. "What an utter disgrace. Do you not see that this is discrimination? It's come to the world's attention now that you are part of the COVID-19 vaccination push. Everything is being recorded. Everything is being monitored by the people now. When the true scale of the damage becomes clear, everyone that has been part of this vaccine push will be held accountable and will realize what they've been a part of." He just wants debate, remember? Just wants debate. So Mrs. J then received an anonymous brown envelope delivered to her place of work that had the message, "Hi, I'm sorry to contact you anonymously. I don't want to get caught up in the same sphere as David Cartland, but I thought you should be aware of the posts that he has made as your name appears in them. On the 27th of November, he shared a rejection email from you on his Getter feed. The comments that follow are unpleasant, and someone has shared your email address." She said of Dr. Cartland, this is Mrs. J, "To put my name and email address out there, knowing the type of reaction it could get, was cruel. And I do not understand why anyone would do that. It's fine to have an opinion about the COVID-19 vaccination, but I do not find it acceptable to post my name and email address and expect me to be okay with receiving the sort of hate mail that I did." Now, I don't know about you, Brent, but this doesn't sound like somebody who wants to just debate to me. This sounds like a bully, and it sounds like a coward.
Someone who wants to intimidate.
Yeah, and stifle debate. And again, to direct people like flying monkeys at people. Well, that's my opinion from what I've seen thus far. December 2022, Mr. Cartland goes on Iconic again, and he claims that the COVID vaccine for children only lasts a few weeks before being useless and then can go into negative efficacy, which isn't true. Although it can wane over time. Like, for example, one study found that in children aged 5 to 11, the effectiveness of 2 Pfizer doses against Omicron infection dropped from 68% to just 12% within a few weeks. But another large study reported that for children 5 to 11 years old, effectiveness against infection was 59.9% at 1 month after the primary series, but only 14.9% at 10 months. But for children aged 12 to 17 years, effectiveness against symptomatic disease also waned after about 5 weeks. But for severe disease, it lasts much longer. One CDC report from late 2025 showed that the updated vaccines were 76% effective against COVID-19 associated emergency urgent care visits in children aged 9 months to 4 years during the first 6 months after vaccination. Another study found that vaccine efficiency against hospital admission in children aged 5 to 11 ranged from 93% shortly after the second dose to 63% after 120 days, which is, it does wane, but it's still a very high level of protection. And again, this is a misrepresentation of the figures. It shows that for severe infection, it remains protective for a lot longer. In January 2023, Dr. B becomes aware of Mr. Cartland's online behavior directed to him and others. So this is a brand new person. Dr. Cartland posted a photograph of Dr. B of him alongside the comment, "What people don't realize is that 1 dose of any COVID vaccine gives you 100% protection from being hospitalized or dying." And this was a quote that Dr. B had given, but it was taken out of context. And essentially, he felt that the effect was to portray him as dishonest and a liar. And this resulted in a lot of people reacting very negative towards Lee and basically repeating that sentiment. Dr. B stated, "Because of the enormity and negativity of the responses I received, the only way I felt I could cope and limit to stop the abuse I was receiving was to deactivate my account." But he also complained to the GMC. Dr. B explains that Dr. Cartland then posted on Twitter that Dr. B had reported him to the GMC and accused him of snitching to the head teacher, stating that the complaint was part of a mass complaint and that it was vexatious nonsense and that they were ridiculous, unsubstantiated claims. But as we've already discussed, it was Cartland who's been setting up sock puppet accounts, doxing people, encouraging people to flood Twitter accounts, and putting out people's email with the understanding that people are probably going to harass this person. Dr. B then describes in his statement a tweet that he saw linking to a newspaper article stating, "Dr. B called for more help for paedophiles." Dr. B then states that Dr. Cartland replied to his own tweet saying, worked on this this news outlet. And Dr. B explains that the article had to be rectified at the time because it was out of context. And Dr. B responded to correct Dr. Cartland, but he says that Dr. Cartland continued to deliberately misrepresent the article and repost it, and that he still receives negative comments about it, a lot of which are homophobic. And Dr. B says in his statement, and this is directly from the tribunal, that Dr. Cartland then started repeatedly saying that Dr. B was paedophile sympathizing. In January, on the 17th, Dr. Cartland again posts a screenshot of Mrs. J, the lady who politely refused him a job application, posts her email again, this time with her personal details blocked, but it does provide the practice name in response to a user's inquiry. And Mrs. J receives yet another brown envelope at work. I've previously written to you to inform you that a local GP frequently shares a rejection email from the practice. I mentioned it previously anonymously, as within the screen grab there was names of the practice, but also the manager visible. The comments that this post promoted were unpleasant, and I had concerns for both the practice and the practice manager, which is Mrs. J. I don't know if you spoke to Dr. Cartland, but he has taken to blanking out the name of the practice and the manager, but if anyone asks him which practice this relates to, he shares the information freely. I haven't been able to scroll back through all of his Getter posts to see if he's taken down the other images with all the names visible, but I imagine it is still on the internet somewhere. I hope you don't mind me contacting you to inform you. Can you imagine how scary that would be? Just getting an anonymous letter, like you just sat there just trying to do your job. You've politely said to somebody, no, you're not suitable for this particular role. Then you're starting to get hate mail, some from somebody that you know to be a little bit flighty, shall we say, and then you get in sort of anonymous letters saying somebody's bad mouthing you, and this has led to concern for your safety. On January the 23rd, Mr. Cartland sent an email directly to Dr. A. Dr. A is the obstetrician, remember? Threatening her with retaliatory action, specifically because she had made a complaint to the GMC. The complaint was that he had encouraged his followers to harass her. So he decides to email her and threaten to report her to the GMC unless she retracts his claim, her previous claim. The email has the subject heading of malicious. And this is what he wrote. I hope you have a sense of achievement from your GMC complaint, which I fear will backfire on you. The GMC will be receiving evidence of your malicious behavior very soon, as I too have been keeping evidence. I see from your complaint you have sent 5 screenshots, none of which demonstrate what you feel they do. I feel genuinely sorry for you and your blinkered views. The tribunal determined that Mr. Cartland should not have contacted Dr. A directly in this manner because by this stage he was aware that she had made a complaint to the GMC. The tribunal considered this email in the context of the ongoing tweets that he was still posting, and it decided that the words used were intemperate and constituted a threat to her by suggesting that her actions will backfire on her and how he feels sorry for her. In the circumstances and context, the tribunal declared on the balance of probabilities that Dr. Cartland's email was a threat of retaliation toward Dr. A. The tribunal decided on the balance of probabilities that the numerous social media posts that Dr. Cartland posted, the encouraging of other followers, and the abusive words used constituted a course of improper, oppressive, and unreasonable conduct, and that these were further aggravated by the threatening email of January 2023. And it determined that Dr. Cartland knew, or at least ought to have known, that his conduct amounted to a campaign of harassment. So thus far, the man who claims that he's a whistleblower and wants debate hasn't actually blown any whistles, has set up sock puppet accounts to attack people, sent them bestiality, sent threats, doxed people, called people paedophiles, been homophobic, encouraged pylons, and ran away from the only debate that he's actually set up. And it's not only that, okay, but he is a representative for the NHS. He makes all of these actions and posts whilst calling himself a doctor, whilst wearing scrubs, whilst wearing a stethoscope, sometimes whilst appearing in photos clearly at a medical practice. He's not only acting like a bully and a coward, but he's bringing the institutions that he's intimately connected to into completely embarrassing levels of disrepute.